Hello everyone. In this section, we will be exploring a modern and highly effective approach to cybersecurity known as the Zero Trust Security Model. This model has gained enormous popularity in recent years, and for good reason. Traditional approaches to security focused on creating a strong perimeter, like building a wall around a castle. The assumption was that if you kept the bad guys out, everything inside would be safe. But today, the reality is very different. With cloud services, remote work, mobile devices, and sophisticated attackers, the perimeter has disappeared. In this new landscape, Zero Trust offers a smarter, more adaptive way to protect systems and data. So, what exactly does Zero Trust mean? At its core, the philosophy is simple: never trust, always verify. Unlike traditional models that automatically trust users or devices inside the corporate network, Zero Trust assumes that no one, whether inside or outside the network, should be trusted by default. Every request, every login, and every transaction must be verified. This approach drastically reduces the chances of attackers moving freely within systems once they gain initial access. The first principle of Zero Trust, as shown on the slide, is never trust, always verify. Imagine a company building where once you get past the front door, you can walk into any office without question. That's how traditional networks worked: once you were inside, you were trusted. Zero Trust changes this. Even if you enter the building, you're asked to show your badge at every door. Similarly, in a Zero Trust system, every user and device must continuously prove their identity and legitimacy, regardless of where they are located. This creates multiple layers of security and makes it much harder for attackers to move around undetected. The second principle is strong identity and access management, IAM. Zero Trust relies heavily on ensuring that only the right people, with the right level of permission, can access resources. This includes multi-factor authentication, MFA, where users must provide 2 or more pieces of evidence to prove their identity. It may also include conditional access policies, such as granting access only if the request comes from a known device or location. By strengthening identity management, organizations ensure that stolen passwords alone are not enough for attackers to break in. The third principle is continuous monitoring of user and device behavior. In traditional systems, authentication often happens only at login. But in Zero Trust, authentication is ongoing. Systems constantly monitor patterns, such as login times, locations, and device behavior. If something looks suspicious, for example, a user logging in from New York and then 5 minutes later from London, the system can trigger alerts or block access. This behavioral analysis adds an extra safety net, catching threats that may bypass standard authentication checks. The fourth principle is minimizing the attack surface through least privilege access. This means giving users and devices only the permissions they absolutely need, no more, no less. For example, if an employee's role requires access to email and a project management tool, they shouldn't have access to financial systems or sensitive customer data. By limiting privileges, organizations reduce the potential damage if an account is compromised. It's like giving someone a key only to the rooms they need, not to the entire building. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine a hacker steals the credentials of an employee working remotely. In a traditional system, once inside, the hacker might move laterally across networks, exploring different systems and extracting data. But in a Zero Trust environment, the hacker would face multiple obstacles. First, they would need to pass multi-factor authentication, which requires more than just a password. Even if they got in, their access would be limited to only what that employee is authorized to use. Meanwhile, monitoring systems would notice unusual activity, such as downloading large amounts of data or logging in from an unusual location, and could block the session. In short, Zero Trust drastically limits the hacker's opportunities to cause damage. Organizations worldwide are adopting Zero Trust for exactly these reasons. Tech giants like Microsoft and Google have moved to Zero Trust frameworks, especially as they operate globally and must protect billions of user accounts. Governments are also pushing for Zero Trust adoption. For example, in the United States, a 2021 executive order mandated federal agencies to implement zero trust architectures, recognizing it as a critical strategy for national cybersecurity. However, it's important to understand that zero trust is not a single product you can buy and install. Instead, it is a framework and mindset that requires implementing several practices and technologies together. It involves identity management systems, network segmentation, device security, encryption, and advanced monitoring tools. Organizations must also regularly review access permissions, update policies, and test their defenses to ensure the zero trust model works effectively. There are also challenges. Implementing zero trust requires investment, planning, and cultural change. Employees may initially find additional security steps inconvenient, such as entering codes from an authenticator app. IT teams may need to redesign parts of the network or replace outdated systems. But the long-term benefits, significantly reduced risk, stronger compliance with regulations, and increased resilience against cyber attacks, make these efforts worthwhile. Let's also compare zero trust with the traditional castle-and-moat approach for a moment. In the castle-and-moat model, the focus is on keeping outsiders away from the moat, but once someone crosses the bridge, they're trusted. In contrast, zero trust operates like a castle where every door inside has its own lock, and guards check your identity at each checkpoint. This might sound strict, but in cybersecurity, strictness equals safety. To summarize, the zero trust security model is built on 4 key pillars. 1. Never trust, always verify, no automatic trust for anyone, inside or outside the network. 2. Strong identity and access management, multi-factor authentication and conditional access. 3. Continuous monitoring of users and devices, detecting unusual or risky behaviors in real time. 4. Least privilege access, minimizing the potential damage of compromised accounts. In conclusion, zero trust is not just a technology trend, it is the future of cybersecurity. In a world where data is everywhere and threats are constantly evolving, zero trust gives organizations the ability to defend themselves with agility and precision. By adopting this model, organizations can greatly reduce the chances of breaches, protect their most valuable data, and build a more resilient digital environment. In conclusion, zero trust is not just a technology trend, it is the future of cybersecurity. In a world where data is everywhere and threats are constantly evolving, zero trust gives organizations the ability to defend themselves with agility and precision. By adopting this model, organizations can greatly reduce the chances of breaches, protect their most valuable data, and build a more resilient digital environment. Thank you.